Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Huddling with the Pros Sports Talk Radio. I'm David Weinstein, Huddling with the Pros legal analyst. I'm a former state and federal prosecutor, currently in private practice in Miami, Florida. Joining me tonight are my co-hosts, Champ Jordan, and Huddling with the Pros sports columnist, Bill Gutman. We'll be starting our discussion in just a minute. Tonight, we will have an update on the Aaron Hernandez trial from Hartford Courant reporter Jenny Wilson, and we will also have a conversation with New York Jets line coach Pepper Johnson. All Jets with Pepper tonight. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about our show. Huddling with the Pros Sports Talk Radio airs live every Wednesday evening from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern. The goal of our show is to take on all the important and controversial sports issues head on. We love to hear from you, so post your questions on our Twitter and Facebook pages at hashtag AskHWTPSports. Or email us at sportstalkradio@Huddlin, Huddlin, withthepros.com. We're also on Instagram at HuddlinWThePros. Well, a lot has happened this week, Champ and Bill, but a couple of things that we really should really get right underway talking about is that we might see some rugby in the NFL. Bill, as you know, there was a report out that an Australian rugby star is going to be trying out at running back for the 49ers. Do you think he can carry a different kind of ball and be as productive?
Yeah, I guess time will tell. It's certainly a switch. He's obviously an outstanding athlete, and rugby is a pretty rugged sport. I know there's another sport in Australia called Australian rules football, which is really a rugged sport. But rugby is not for shrinking violets either. And if he's got the strength and the speed and little elusiveness, which you have to have in rugby, I guess there's a chance. He'd have to get used to getting hit quite a bit. But if he's a really good athlete, it may be an interesting experiment. I think he also mentioned he could try out as possibly a kick returner. So he's willing to do a few things, and he says it's his dream. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Those are both bruising positions, especially kick returner. I'd like to see him incorporate some of the officiating from Australian rules football, especially the way they signal the goal on either side of the goalpost. Champ, do you think he can transfer his talents from rugby onto the football field, or is he going to run up against some of the same problems that some other athletes have had? For example, some of these sprinters who try to make it in the NFL.
I think it's a little different, as far as the sprinters, just because, they're not playing a contact sport. I think it's just one of those things where rugby, I guess, is kind of comparable, to football. It's real rugged. It's a real tough sport. They're not wearing any pads, so I think that's a little different. But he's a YouTube legend, out there on the rugby field. So I think he'll have a chance. I just wonder if with them having some bigger name running backs out there, if he'll get his a good chance to actually show what he can do.
Well, I think by giving him a tryout, at least it'll bring some attention to him, and maybe if the 49ers aren't willing to sign him, maybe somebody else will. Everybody's always looking for that quick kick returner or a running back they can distribute the ball to. So, as Bill likes to say, only time will tell. We'll have to see what happens. But speaking of football being a rugged sport, there was an announcement made this week that Giants punter Steve Weatherford is going to donate his brain to science for concussion research. Champ, how much do you think that affects the rest of the players out there? These are guys who are looking to the future, hoping to help things out, but sort of telling everybody that this is really a dangerous sport.
I think, it's pretty surprising, seeing that he would donate his brain And I just wanted to see if, other football players will basically come forward and, opt to, donate their brains, for them to do research and, to make this, figure out like what's going on with these, these brain injuries and, how they affect you after your football career is over. So I think it was pretty surprising but interesting at the same time. So I just want to see if, more players are going to come forward and follow his footsteps and do the same thing.
Bill, do you think it's more surprising that a punter is making a statement like this, a guy who really doesn't see as many plays as the other players and who, quite frankly, aside from a running into the kicker type of situation, really isn't getting hit in the head that much?
Yeah, he came out and said that he's had just 2 concussions in his career. Also, former Seahawks receiver Sidney Rice has also said he would donate his brain, and Weatherford mentioned that Rice has suffered at least 10 concussions, but he feels that a comparison should be made. He is playing the sport, and I know that running back Thomas Jones who's now retired, has also is going to donate his brain, and of course he was a running back since high school through 10 years or more in the league, so he's been in a lot of heavy collisions also. And I think you may see a few more players start to do this because they know the seriousness of the situation, and they can see some of the former players suffering now from early onset dementia and depression and everything that seems to go with getting this CTE brain disease, which many feel comes from concussion. So I really think it's a very magnanimous gesture on his part.
I agree with you. I don't think there's really any downside to it. And again, my question was aimed at trying to figure out the value of the punter versus somebody like a wide receiver. But as you said, he's mentioned Rice's donation as well. So hopefully this will allow the people who look at the way the athletes play the sport, maybe even the equipment manufacturers, and let them come up with a way to make a very dangerous sport in certain circumstances a lot safer but still enjoyable for the fans. One of the other stories that literally blew up the social media this week was Curt Schilling and what he did to protect his daughter after some really vicious comments were made out there. Champ, what's your reaction on both the comments that were made as well as the swift reaction that Schilling took?
I think it was kind of a surprising, story, basically, with all this, bullying going on and, him being such a big name. And I don't know, I was kind of weirded out, I guess, by, the reaction people were giving just because, he's not really like one of the guys that is beloved by sports fans, especially, baseball. So, I don't know, I just thought it was pretty weird, and I was just wondering what you guys thought.
Well, Bill,
I think
as a guy who follows a lot of baseball, yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I think somebody had to step up. All he did, and again, as we said earlier, he was not one of the most beloved guys, and he himself said, "I've said a lot of dumb things in my life," and he has. But he's been outspoken, and he's had some other problems. And recently, he's had a bout with mouth cancer. But all he did was congratulate his daughter being accepted to a college, and she's going to be on the softball team. And he got some hateful comments. She got hateful comments of the sexual nature, of course, what these different guys were going to do to her and what they thought should be done to her. And he just stepped back in, and he tracked a lot of these guys down. One guy was a part-time ticket seller for the Yankees. He got fired, and I think another couple were suspended from their colleges. And I think it points up a problem that people sitting behind their tablets and computer screens and knocking out these messages on Twitter, sometimes they don't get it. I don't think they understand the damage they could be doing, and maybe it takes someone like Schilling to step up and say, we're not going to let you get away with it. We're going to find out who you are, and we're going to make you have some accountability. So I admire him for doing it.
Do you think it's going to add, I guess have more guys, athletes basically doing the same thing and trying to, step up to these, to these people behind the computers where they're sending all these negative comments?
Well,
I think that it shows the danger of the ability of people to sit in their home, in their car, wherever they are, and be these anonymous posters who comment and who in this situation were completely and totally out of line. And, it wasn't all that long ago where, you may have said something not necessarily as vicious as this, but just made a comment at the water cooler, and the only people who really heard it were the people who were standing around you. Now you can virtually reach the world in a matter of seconds. And the fact that, as Bill pointed out, he found these people, he dug down, he did some research, looked up who they were, and the fact that he was able to put them on the spot and get people to take action really shows that the anonymity that people think they have on the Internet might not necessarily still be there. So, you have to be careful what you say and to who you say it, and, a remark like that really has no business being said.
And this was family. It was his family, his daughter that was attacked. And I think he has said at one point, there's very few reasons that I would go to jail, do something to go to jail, but protecting my daughter, my family was one of them. So he felt very strongly about it. Whether other athletes would get involved, if it doesn't affect them personally, I don't know. But maybe it will start a little bit of a trend, and that'll be another feather in his cap.
Well, I hope so, and that'll certainly, rehabilitate whatever image that was poor from people who disliked him when he was a player, and for perhaps some of the things he said, it was, right of him to admit that he said some things that were out of line in the past, but that doesn't give anybody an excuse to say what they said about his daughter. Champ, I know you're a big basketball fan, and it really, had to be sort of a punch to the gut when Derrick Rose went out, but now they're saying that the surgery he's had is only going to keep him out maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and he might come back. Do you think that that's too quick for him?
No, I don't think it's too quick. Russell Westbrook had the same surgery last year, and he basically opted to take the meniscus out, rather than repairing it, which would take longer, and coming back. So I just thought it was interesting because he had taken the laid-back approach where, he'd repair it and, take more time. But he's opting to come back quicker, and I think he's realizing that, the approach that he used maybe didn't work, and maybe, he needs to get back to his team because this is one of the best teams that he's had, with him being in Chicago. So I think this is his best chance. What did you guys think?
Well, he doesn't want to miss. No, I think you're right. He doesn't want to miss his opportunity. If this is his time and his moment, and it's medically clear, then I think that this is the right move for him.
Yeah, especially if the doctors give him clearance and he can do no further damage by coming back that time. It probably is the best. And he was heavily criticized with his first knee injury, Champ, I believe, when he stayed out, didn't want to come back at the end of the year. Then he wasn't ready at the beginning of the next season. So maybe he's also trying to reverse his image a little bit also.
Well, let's go from the basketball court and on to what might have been the football field, but what's really been the courtroom. We're joined now by Hartford Courant reporter Jenny Wilson. Jenny's been gracious enough to call in every week and update us about what's going on in the Aaron Hernandez trial. You can follow Jenny on Twitter at Jenny D. Wilson. Good evening, Jenny. How are you tonight?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing fine. There was a lot going on both in and out of the courtroom this week. The prosecution really is starting to put some of the pieces of their puzzle into place, painting the story for the jurors. Some of the testimony was a little dry, the cell phone records, the triangulation, but they've finally begun to introduce actual physical evidence and really tempting the jury to pay attention and lean in and see what's going on. Can you tell our listeners some of the puzzle pieces that have come out in the last week since we spoke to you?
Yes, definitely. I'm not exactly sure whether it was end of last week or beginning of this week, but what they've been doing is really working on processing the crime scene. So they've identified Hernandez's fingerprints, the victim's fingerprints, and Hernandez's two alleged accomplices. Their fingerprints were all in the rental vehicle that Aaron Hernandez rented and was seen on surveillance footage using the night of the crime. So that was a big piece for the prosecution. They've heard testimony from all sorts of crime scene services experts with the Massachusetts State Police who have talked about the distance of the firing range and where the shooter was when Lloyd was killed and things like that. So as you mentioned, it is a lot of dry testimony, but it's a crucial piece for the prosecution in putting the case together.
They also introduced a tire today to show the track marks matched the tracks that were on the Altima. That Altima is proving to be a big piece in the puzzle, and now that they've got Hernandez's prints in the car, they're starting to put him closer and closer to where the crime scene occurred. As you mentioned, they gave some evidence about what they call gunshot residue today to sort of help fix the area where the shooter was at the time the shooting took place. The defense, in their cross-examination, has been trying to chip away at the sloppy police work, at the lack of actual physical evidence. They were trying to make some headway with the fingerprint examiner based on what you can see in the courtroom and what you've observed from the testimony and everything else. Do you think these little nicks that they're making are damaging to the prosecution's case, or do you think that the simply large amount of evidence that's coming in is beginning to narrow that circle around Hernandez?
Well, of course, you never really know how something is going to sit with the jury, and what strikes something with one juror could be different for a separate juror. So it's hard to predict, which way the case is leaning, whether the prosecution is ahead or whether the defense is ahead. But in cases where defense attorneys, successfully get the client, acquitted, it's because they're able to just chip away at these little pieces of the investigation, plant doubt in the juror's mind, because, of course, the burden of proof is on the prosecution.
One of the other items that happened outside the courtroom was the prosecution was revisiting what they've referred to as the Bradley shooting down in Florida, and it appeared at one point that they were going to be able to convince the judge to let the evidence of that prior shooting come in. Can you let our listeners know a little bit of the background on that and why that would be so important?
Yeah, so Alexander Bradley, he's a Connecticut friend of Hernandez's, well, formerly a friend, and he was shot in the eye in Florida in February 2013, so about 4 months before the Odin Lloyd shooting. He filed a civil suit that accuses Hernandez of shooting him in the eye. And prior to the trial opening in January, the judge ruled that that prosecutors cannot introduce evidence related to the Bradley shooting. Now, often in these trials, when you see the pretrial rulings, and sometimes if a judge tosses out evidence, there can be ways that prosecutors can try to get it in trial if the defense brings it up. So the state's argument was that because the defense has used as part of their strategy the relationship between Hernandez and Lloyd, that they've tried to convince jurors that there's no way Hernandez would have killed Lloyd because they were such close friends, according to the defense. The prosecutors responded to that by filing a motion that essentially said we should be allowed to introduce this Bradley shooting because Bradley also was a friend of Hernandez's and he was shot. The judge did not go for that, however. She denied that today, and she kept her ruling as it stood. So Bradley is likely to testify, but he won't be talking about that incident down in Florida.
Well, and that incident is important for the prosecution for a number of reasons. It shows, in their opinion, a way that Hernandez has acted towards associates of his in the past, his, in this particular instance, propensity for violence, for using a gun, and for potentially having the exact same situation that happened with Lloyd happened just a few months earlier down in Florida with Bradley. As you noted, the judge was, considering a prior ruling that she made, and I think that based on, her current ruling, that the defense has to be a little more cautious about what they say concerning what Hernandez does, both with firearms and prior interaction between Hernandez and his associates, because, as the saying goes, if they get that door open a little bit and they get that type of testimony in, the judge may be convinced to reverse herself and let that testimony come in. Do you think that?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that, because I mean, obviously the defense always has to be careful in a case like this, but I think that the judge was pretty firm on her ruling. So yes, I mean, if they, for example, when she made the ruling about the Bradley shooting, she also ruled that prosecutors cannot introduce his charges in a 2012 double homicide in Boston. And so now if defense mentions that homicide, for whatever reason, then could make a very strong case. But short of that, it is a little more difficult.
Now, one of the other highlights from this week was certainly some emotional testimony from Lloyd's sister. What did you think of the way she testified? Did she have the right amount of emotion? Did she appear to be, too cold, or was it what you would expect from somebody in that situation?
I think everybody handles grief differently, so I certainly don't have any expectations when a victim's relative is on the stand. I mean, that's not sort of why I'm there to evaluate it. Her testimony, I think, was, that's another key piece of that puzzle that we were talking about, because she received the last communications from Lloyd before he died were a series of texts to his sister telling her that he was with Hernandez. So, she saw him getting into the car before he left, about an hour before he was killed. So that was a big piece of the state's case.
She did, though, at one point become emotional. I guess the way I asked the question was that sometimes people tend to get a little over-emotional when they're there, and, it seemed from the video that I saw of her testimony that, she seemed to keep her emotions under control and didn't let them get out of control, but did, have a little bit of a tear at a certain point in time, because this is certainly something that's affected both her and her family as well as everybody else in the courtroom. Yes,
definitely. And that's something that I think most jurors do notice. I mean, that's something that you do see in a lot of cases, sometimes emotional testimony from a relative or something. There was a little bit of a controversy earlier in this case, because when Ursula Ward, the victim's mother, took the stand, but before she went on in front of the jury, the jurors were let out of the room, and she identified a picture of her son, and it was the autopsy photo, and after she identified it, the judge gave her pretty clear instructions to control her emotions and not to cry. And there was a bit of sort of backlash from observers over that. Now, that surprised some in this case.
Well, I think there'll be plenty of surprises. I also read about one that happened in the spectators gallery when an overzealous spectator decided that it would be appropriate to take a photo.
I was actually not in the courtroom for that, so I can't really comment on that. But yeah, they're keeping they're definitely keeping a pretty tight hold on everything that goes on in the courtroom. I mean, they're not even allowing Patriots gear or any sports gear in the courthouse for the duration of the trial. They're making, the security guards downstairs are making people turn their Patriots jerseys and sweatshirts if they happen to wear them to their 9 o'clock arraignment inside out and things like that. And it's just part of keeping the case as relatively as normal as possible.
Well, they actually had a full week of testimony. This is just about the first time since the trial's gone on that there hasn't been an interruption either from a holiday or a snowstorm or something else. And at the pace they're going, they seem to have picked up the pace and are well into painting that complete picture and getting this case to the jury, something that everybody's certainly waiting to see how those people are going to react and what their read is going to be on how the case has been progressing. We appreciate you calling in every week to keep us up to date. I know we say this every week, but you really give our listeners a chance to feel like they're part of the game and know what's going on in the courtroom, and we appreciate you taking your time to call in. Again, you can follow Jenny on Twitter at Jenny D. Wilson, and we'd like to have you back again next week as well.
Yes, definitely. I'll talk to you then.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. Have a good week.
Thanks.
So, Champ and Bill, a couple of other quick stories that I want to go over before we get to our special guest at 9:30, Pepper Johnson. There was some news today out of a club with Cam Newton and Peyton Manning had to take a pay cut. What do you think about those two stories, Bill?
Well, a $4 million pay cut I don't think is going to put Peyton into the poorhouse. I guess he just gave him a little help maybe to sign some other people, but it just seems like a small pay cut, not one that's going to greatly affect the cap or anything, so I'm not sure why it happened, but I think the bigger news is he's going to play another year, and he obviously wants to try to get another Super Bowl, and let's hope it goes well for him. An aging quarterback can be a little more prone to injury, but he must feel good to go again, and you got to give him credit. I think the pay cut's kind of negligible with that.
Champ, you think he is at a point in his career, obviously, where he's going after that ring, sort of akin to what we were talking about with Derrick Rose, that as long as everything's in place, if he get back, he's got the right team, he should come in. You think he put that for him pocket change, back on the table so that he could try to get it together one more time before he retires?
Definitely. Looking at how old he is and him having injuries at the end of this past season, I think that it's kind of telling. Basically saying that this might be his last year. He's made a ton of money over his career, with endorsements and all the contracts that he's had. I think money isn't an issue. I think that he wants that. He wants that next ring, and his team, they need more money to play with. As far as to get him more weapons on the on the outside. So I think it's he's basically helping himself out. Helping the team. So I think it was. I mean, I expected it to happen. I didn't expect $4 million, but I was. I think it's good for the team, and it gives them a better chance to win a championship.
Well, and any time that your leader comes back and says, "Look, I'll put some money back." I know Tom Brady's had to do it a couple of times, so he could keep people around him. So the fact that Peyton's showing that he's a team player and is going to do something for the team certainly has to instill some confidence on the people who are around him and the people that are going to help him win, if possible, that next Super Bowl. As for Cam, Champ, you think he's just been in the wrong place at the wrong time now?
Yeah, I think it's just clearly just wrong place, wrong time. Unless they come back and say something otherwise. But if he was just there and it happened to be a shooting at the club, I feel like for me, it's a non-issue unless somehow he's involved.
Yeah, I agree with you. It could have been me, it could have been you, it could have been Bill, out there dancing at the club, and just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's had a run of bad luck, though, Bill, with that car accident that he was in during the season, and now with this.
Yeah, I remember when he was drafted, I believe the Panthers spoke to him and said that you're going to be the face of our franchise, and they basically, I believe at the time, if I'm correct, asked him not to come out and suddenly have tattoos all over his arms and his neck and everything. They wanted to basically keep him clean cut. And I think for the most part he has been. I saw him on a commercial the other night doing a commercial with a young boy in it, and he came across very well. And he's a good-looking guy, so I think he's kind of gone with the program. I don't know what kind of club he was in. If it's a club where there is trouble all the time, then he definitely should not have been there. If it was just happened to be something that occurred when he was there, and it doesn't usually happen there, then it was just one of those things. So players with a high profile like Cam really should be careful where they go, and the club scene these days tends to be a little dangerous because so many people are carrying weapons. So, maybe he's got to think a little bit more before he does these things. But again, a young guy wants to have fun, so it's the off season, so you can't really fault him for that.
Well, I can tell you this much: it was not a jazz club, Bill, so we wouldn't have found you there. I want to remind everybody you're listening to Huddlin' with the Pros, Sports Talk Radio, with me, David Weinstein, Champ Jordan, and Bill Gutman. Well, next on the line here is a special guest, one of our favorites, Pepper Johnson, currently a coach with now the New York Jets. Pepper, hated to see you go from the Bills, but glad that you stayed in the AFC East, I think. Thanks for joining us this evening. Pepper, are you there? Well, let's see where we can find Pepper. And while we're waiting for him to join in, Pepper? Bill, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all right. You're there, Champ's there. We're just having some technical difficulty getting Pepper in. Well, Pepper, I know you're listening.
Well, until Pepper comes on, just briefly, there's another story that I think we might touch on, unless Pepper's on the line, and that's that Josh Hamilton, the outfielder of the Los Angeles Angels, has gone to Major League Baseball and admitted that he had a cocaine alcohol relapse this summer, or this winter over the off season. And Hamilton, of course, had a terrible drug problem as a young player and lost 2 years of his career. When he was drafted by originally the old Tampa Bay Devil Rays, he was compared to Mickey Mantle with the talent that he had, and he finally crawled out and got clean and became an MVP in 2011 with the Rangers and has a great career going. He's had 2 alcohol relapses, but now apparently he dabbled back into cocaine, and it just shows you what a strong addiction and what a hideous addiction this can be, and how difficult it is for somebody who's really got the world at his feet right now and is making millions of dollars, and it's still very difficult for him to stay clean. Major League Baseball will probably take some action. They could suspend him for a whole season, could put his career in jeopardy. So we'll see how it plays out, but it's really a sad story.
Well, I think the fact that he came forward with this and advised, MLB and the team what had happened shows 2 things. One, his recognition that he does still have this problem, that he needs to do something to correct it, and 2, not trying to sweep it under the rug and hope that nobody notices it. And I would hope that the league gives him some credit for doing that and gives him an opportunity to get treatment and continue to play. Champ, do you think that this is something that might have a negative effect at all, or is this going to, in the end, turn out to be a good story?
I think ultimately it's going to be a positive thing for him. Hopefully, obviously, with him possibly going to miss some games, miss it on some money, game checks. I think it's negative, but I think it's him, basically, owning up to what he did, and maybe a sign of him trying to ask for help. And I hope he gets that help so he can get clean, and hopefully he doesn't relapse again.
Yeah, he was when he was drafted, his parents traveled everywhere with him. He was supposedly a kid who never used alcohol, tobacco, or anything, and then they were in a car accident, the family, and he was injured, but his mother was more seriously injured, so his mother and father had to go home, and he was left on his own. And the story is that he went into a tattoo parlor one day, got a tattoo, and started hanging out with some guys there, and unfortunately, he was one of these guys that as soon as he tried something, he was hooked. And he had gotten so bad, as I say, he lost 2 seasons completely. I had read that he went down to 160 or 70 pounds, and this is a guy who now weighs 250 pounds. He's a very big, strong, 6'4" physical specimen, but he was really down in the gutter. And he crawled back and resurrected his career, and as I said, became a superstar and had some tremendous seasons, but that monkey is still on his back, apparently. He supposedly, during the season, travels with a handler who keeps an eye on him all the time. I don't think they let him carry a lot of money around, and they know that he's very, very susceptible to these relapses. So he had some shoulder surgery in the off season and was rehabbing in Houston at a friend's, and they said that in itself was unusual because the player usually rehabs around the team so they can keep tabs on his rehab. So what happened, I don't know, and I don't know whether he voluntarily came forward or somebody had reported it and he had to come forward. But as I said, in either case, it's very sad for him that this has happened, and people have wondered what's going to happen to a guy like this when he can't play anymore and he doesn't have the structure of baseball around him. So it's a story worth following just to see what happens, and hopefully, as Champ said, he does right the ship and get himself clean again.
Well, I know we saw the same thing happen to Darryl Strawberry, over in your neck of the woods there, Bill. Sort of fell down the same hole, the same spiral. So let's hope they can get some treatment together for him and help him correct things and get him on the way. I know we talked about it often that the younger the people are who are coming into the sport, and the less time that they've spent really growing up, whether it's at college or just in life, has an effect on them. Champ, do you think that the age of these players being so young is why we're seeing more and more of incidences like this? Certainly not as severe as what's going on in the Aaron Hernandez case, but that's sort of a similar path.
Yeah, I think age has something to do with it. I think it's along with, age and just, everyone being so accessible and knowing about, some of these kids growing up. And, they're basically put on a pedestal and they're basically allowed to do whatever they want to do. And, you hand them millions of dollars and, they're still really young. Some of these kids, 20, 21, 22, they still be in college, not making any money studying. So you hand them a lot of money, so it's what's going to happen. So it's kind of sad, but I think it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah.
Pepper,
People tend
to. We've finally made the connection.
We got
yes.
Pepper.
Oh, fantastic!
Okay, all right.
All right, we can hear you now. Welcome back, Pepper. Let's just get going here. Most of the coaches and assistants are former players like yourself. However, there are a few who've never played, except maybe at lower levels like high school. Do you think it's more difficult for someone who's never played to become a successful coach? And will that sometimes lack of real feeling for the game translate poorly when that type of a person is going to coach a player?
Firstly, I think it's less guys that have played. There's definitely less guys that play at this level, and there's a few more that may have played at college, but few at Division I schools. There's a lot of coaches, maybe more than what you would probably think. Coaches that some guys never played football or never played like major college football, and how a lot of guys end up adjusting is going through the channels, like they coming up. They're being quality control. Well, first of all, a lot of guys are graduate assistants in college. Then they're coming on to get an opportunity in the NFL, and they're like our quality control guys. So they're still like in the process of learning how to coach and how to adjust and communicate with the players. So it's more of that going on in the league, in the NFL, at this level.
Bill, I know you had a couple of things you wanted to ask Pepper as well.
Yeah, well, I think something Pepper. Hi, Pepper. How you doing, by the way? This is Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah, I think it might be interesting to some of our listeners to kind of describe a typical day or even a week as a coach during the season, because I don't think most people realize how much time is required and how involved it's become between meetings, field time, practice. I know you've read stories about a lot of the head coaches actually sleeping at the stadium during the week and not going home to their families because they're so busy. As a defensive line coach before that. Mm-hmm. What's that, Pepper?
Yeah, not only head coaches.
Exactly. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about how many hours you have to put in and how involved it is now?
It's very difficult, and you're directing that question like during the season or now in off season?
No, during the season.
During the season. Okay, so during the season, let's say we just had a game Sunday, right? Let's say a 4 o'clock game. That makes it very interesting. Well, it gets more interesting if it was a night game. But let's say a 4 o'clock game, so it ended, mid-evening. Okay. We come in Monday morning. Normally, I would probably be in like 5 o'clock in the morning because we want to grade the film of the ball game before we have a coaching staff meeting. It's just normal for a few head coaches. Like they want the films graded. They want to put that game behind them as soon as possible and get started on the next team. So we got to have the film graded. So we would like to have a few defensive plays and a lot of offensive plays, but have the film graded. And we talk about what we did good, what we did bad, evaluation of the game. If we played this team again, what will we do differently? All those type of things. That's what we do in our staff meeting, defensive staff meeting. Then we meet collectively coaches, and we do that before we meet with the players. And normally the players don't come in until the afternoon. They might come in earlier to get a jog on, just to keep the muscles loose and all that stuff. Cold tub, hot tub, go see trainers, whatever. And so we'll probably meet with the players maybe around 12 o'clock. Then we would watch the game. So we watch the game, we go through all the corrections, and then we'll let the players out. So normally the players are gone maybe around 4 o'clock, and then the fun begins. Then we start on the next team, and so all the coaches have different assignments. So Mondays will have me probably leaving out of the office like around 11:30 at night. Tuesdays is fun also because now we're trying to put all our thoughts and our assignments and all that stuff we got. We're trying to come up with a game plan. For the upcoming opponents. So maybe I'm at work maybe 6:30, but normally I'm leaving out of my office maybe around 11 o'clock at night, if not 11:30 at night, or sometimes midnight. It all depends on who we're playing against. Wednesday, I'm normally in the office a couple hours before whatever time the team meeting is. So if team meeting is at 8, I'm normally here like 6. It's at 7:30, which unfortunately for me, I'm back in at 5:30. Wednesdays is also a pretty long day, but hopefully I'm out of the office like 10 or 10:30. Thursdays, normally because I try to get so much work done on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So Thursdays, I'm happy to leave out of the office, definitely around 10. I'm making my business. I'm not staying later than 10. And it's the same team meetings on Wednesday, Thursday, and normally Friday you have team meetings at the same time, 8 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 in the morning. Fridays is normally a day when I actually leave out of the office at a decent hour, so maybe 4, 5 o'clock. It all depends on what how the coach schedule. Coach Bowles, I don't know how he's going to treat Fridays, if he's going to start later, if he's going to start early in the morning. But normally Fridays is a decent day for us to actually get home and coaches can see the kids and stuff like that. So maybe 4 o'clock we work regular hours on a Friday. Saturdays, if you're traveling or if it's a home game, it's still a normal morning. I might not come in 2 hours ahead of time because it's not as much preparation because game plan, everything is done then. So I may come in like an hour and a half before whenever the team meeting is, and then have the team meeting. It's a very short day because it's like a dress rehearsal, walk through. The players normally don't get dressed that day, and then we let them out early to have a night meeting later on in the hotel, or if we travel or whatever, they run in the hotel. And Sunday is game day. So you did all those hours, put in all those hours just to have fun on Sunday.
Well, you made me tired getting through the week there, Pepper. I want to remind everybody you're listening to Huddling with the Pros Sports Talk Radio with me, David Weinstein, Champ Jordan, and Bill Gutman. So, Pepper, it has to be a little bit strange for you. You have a homecoming now back in the state of New York and in the football town of New York City, where you played for the crosstown New York Giants. Is it the same type of homecoming feel for you, or is it a little bit odd because you're wearing green instead of blue?
Well, remember, I ended my career with the Jets, so I actually have my name on the walls here. When I first came in, I just went on a tour of the building, and I actually have a couple of pictures up on the wall, and not individual team pictures, but I have my name on the wall a few times for awards and stuff they had blocked and stuff like that. So,
do you think they were planted there, Pepper, or do you think they've always been there?
No, they're there. They're listed with a lot of other players, but and I have there's still a few guys that's around, made the trip from Hofstra, Long Island, and came out here. So there's a few guys that was here when I last played here in '98.
Well, we're not going to make.
It's not as bad. I think a lot of my friends are they're true. So they're supporting Pepper Johnson, whether I'm coaching for the Giants and coaching for the Jets. It really doesn't matter to them. Everybody's just happy that I'm back in New York, New Jersey area.
Well, some will say that New York has always been a Giants town. Different fan bases, but do you think that this year's New York Jets are going to become the New York team if they can move forward?
I have to say yes to that. I have to totally agree with that. We have to make a very strong statement this year. We're going to try to make a very strong statement. I don't know if you're going to ever clear the argument from a lot of people heads because they're true fans. I also have a lot of friends that are true Giant fans, and they tell me, "Hey, Pepper, I'm gonna root for you until you play against the Giants." So I don't know if we could totally take over. It's going to take a lot, but we definitely going to give it a great effort.
If you got a message you want to send, I know we have a lot of Jets fans out there listening. Any message you want to send to them about how exciting things are going to be?
Well, that's one thing that's definitely always been with Jets football is it's been exciting, and I'm quite sure there's just a lot of people just it's been since 1969, so you want a little bit more from the team instead of hopes and the glory of it all. But there are still a few teams, I think 3, that never been to the final game at all. So I can't really make a lot of promises. That is always a goal, a hidden goal, I think, from everybody that either lays cleats or put on a coaching hat, that you want to play in the final game of the season and you like to win it. So I can't totally lie or try to fabricate a story and say our goals are just to win the AFC East, or our goals is just to put a good team out on the football field. That sounds politically correct. Deep down inside, and everybody that knows me know that I look for championships every year. Let me tell you, we should have won it every year I've played and coached, but maybe not one. I won't say that one, but all right. So we're going to try to put well, Bill knows. That's why. Was that you laughing, Bill?
No, that was me laughing.
That was you laughing?
I don't want to get Bill in trouble. I'll take credit for the laugh.
Okay, because I think Bill knows what I'm talking about. My worst year in football, but we're going to try to put a great team out there and play some good, solid, physical football and see what happens.
Well, I know that I'm not too thrilled that you're going to be helping the Jets to beat up on my beloved Buffalo Bills twice a season, but I know that Champ breathing a sigh. Champ is breathing a sigh of relief that you're not going to be helping the Giants beat up on his Dallas Cowboys. Champ, is there anything you want to ask Pepper while we've got him here?
Oh, no, of course. No, I just want to know how excited he is for the upcoming season, and for the new scenery he's going to have. Like, what are you expecting for the season?
Like I said, my expectations are very high. I remember a wise old man told me, never
you
let
talking about Bill?
That Parcells guy. Yeah, he told me never let his expectations of me be higher than mine of my own. And I've always carried that with me. And it's not just as a player, but as I started my coaching career. So I expect good things. I've been blessed. I have a good group of guys that I'll be coaching here. I'm looking forward to it. So, Champ, yes, I am excited. I'm always excited. But, I hate this time of the year.
Are you counting down for the season to begin or what?
College basketball or some mess. And I heard you guys talking a little bit about basketball, I guess, earlier on. And don't get me wrong. I like basketball. Baseball was the first organized sport that I ever played. I love that too. But I was born, raised. Football is in my blood. It's embedded in me. So I eat, drink, sleep football 24/7. So am I ready for the season? Yes. Do I think we can go out there and win tomorrow? I think we got just as good a chance as anybody else because no one is in football shape. But I wish we could play next week. I'm so ready to get started. I'm still mad. I might get fined for making this statement, but the new collective bargaining agreement being pushed back and keeping my players farther away from me that I can't talk to them, it's punishing for a person like myself. That I can't get close to the guys that these guys they got families and they want to go on vacation and all that stuff like that. But starting a new place, not really just knowing the guys and admiring the guys from across the field, and watching tapes on them, destroy a lot of other teams. Now I'm getting an opportunity to coach them. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to getting them up in here and just shake hands and say hello and watch some film and talk to them a little bit.
I can imagine that Sundays are pretty boring right now.
Pepper,
they are kind of boring for me.
I think you opened the door up for Bill a little bit. Bill, Pepper sounds like he doesn't have much to do, next couple of months. With baseball season opening up, you going to go take him out to a game with you and maybe ask him a couple of questions and get to be a little bit more of a baseball fan?
Pepper's thinking football all the time. He's thinking football all the time. But I was thinking, Pepper, it's almost a curse. The Jets have won the one Super Bowl in '69, and it's become legendary that Joe Namath guaranteed a victory over the Colts. It was a great game. I remember it well. But since then, people have pointed out the Jets have never had another franchise quarterback. And, of course, cross town, the Giants had Y.A. Tittle, they had Fran Tarkenton, they had Phil Simms. Now they have Eli. How important do you think it is for the Jets to get that franchise quarterback, somebody who not only will help them win, but, a franchise quarterback gives the team an identity. Do you think it's important for the Jets to find a guy that's going to be there 7, 8, 10 years and be a star because it just hasn't happened?
Well, remember this now. You kind of grow into that title.
Yeah.
You don't just come here with that because, technically Brett Favre was here. So, what stage of his career and all that stuff. So, but technically he was here. I don't know if it was for 7 years, if the thinking was for 7 years, but, you had that guy. And I'm quite sure a lot of other draft picks, I think Boomer was here too, right?
But none of them came as a young quarterback and established themselves as that franchise quarterback. That's what I'm saying, basically. Their draft choices at quarterback have always kind of fizzled a little bit.
Exactly. But, and Bill, I think if you think about it a little bit, my answers to that question a little bit is, I strongly feel that the defense wins the championships. that I wasn't watching the Jets win the Super Bowl over Baltimore, but it's just the stories I've read, the books I've read, and the stories I've heard and stuff like that is they put a pretty good defense out there on the field, and they stopped the guys when they needed to, and a good run game is makes your defense even better. So Matt Snell running the ball, I think was awesome also, and it's a combination of it. I don't want to take anything away from Phil Simms, but Phil Simms not turning over the ball and with the defensive group that we have,
defense is great.
That helps. Yeah, that helps a lot. So what we're going to try to establish here is go out there and play, like I said, some good physical football, offensively and defensively, and if one of our quarterbacks merges to be a franchise quarterback, then thank you very much. But if not, if the guy is, like he has a good year, a couple of good years, or something like that, I hope for the best, but I'm not trying to put everything on the quarterback's plate to win a championship. There's been a lot of championships won at this level, and not necessarily saying it was the best of quarterbacks. I know you put it on the team across the water or 20 miles away or whatever, but I think defense is, well, matter of fact, I strongly believe that defense wins championships, and that's one of the reasons why I'm over here.
Well, Pepper, I want to thank you. We all want to thank you very much for joining us again tonight. I know the people who follow the New York Jets are excited to have you in New York City back again and adding to the Jets defense. I can't join that crowd, Pepper. I'll root for you if you're not playing my Bills, but we're glad that you're back, and we're really glad that you joined us again. I think we all had a great time. As a reminder, Huddlin' with the Pros, Sports Talk Radio, airs live every Wednesday evening from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. The show is produced by Jacqueline Park, and it's a Hyacinth Communications Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. Special thanks to our guest, Jenny Wilson. You can follow Jenny on Twitter at Jenny D. Wilson, and Pepper Johnson. Pepper, thanks for joining us. And to our great Huddlin' with the Pros team, Champ Jordan, Bill Gutman, Danina DePool, and our digital editor, Thomas Zoe. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week.